Okay, could everyone take your seats, please?
You need to wake up again.
I did.
Yeah, put air in my chest.
Oh, you did? I think I had 3 probably go to the bathroom. Maybe we could move this stuff.
Diane?
All right, we're going to call this meeting back to order in a second.
Oh, that's
You
the
could go ahead and catch that back door back there. Thank you, Matt. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order, please.
Michael Burke.
And we were about to get into a conversation about, and where did Audrey go? Okay, that's all right. Anyway, a couple of you had some questions. I guess we'll eat cookies till Audrey gets here. Our turn. Oh, there she is. Hi.
We have our priorities.
Yeah, we do. Cookies, sorry. Let's see. I think that we were going to have the conversation about the Audrey. There were going to be some questions about the duties and obligations of council people in their ex officio capacity. How do you like that? Who's the attorney now? Huh? Not me.
It sounds good.
Okay. Anyway, yes. Questions?
Well, it's just, you hear a lot of things. We all hear a lot of things. City charter, First Amendment, a lot of things floating around here. We're in the unique situation of a 5-2 vote again, and love them both to death. They know that on a personal level. But the two that are against it are our 2 votes up there. How does that work for this vote that's going to come up in August? And what are their duties to the city
A very good question.
on that vote?
It's a very good question. Currently, both Mayor Nelson and Councilman Deputy Mayor McIntosh serve as the MPO members. MPO membership is something that council can determine. We have 2 seats on the MPO. It's a statutory entity created by Florida statutes, also by federal law. Council can always change that opinion from one day to another. We also have a charter provision, and I've been fortunate tonight because I was able to talk to league counsel, special counsel, on some of the questions to it. We have a charter provision that says council can create their own additional code of conduct to implement Section 22, and Section 22 does talk very strong words, including forfeiture of office. That's the favorite line in that section. And we were talking that either is preempted by state law, because you have in the Florida Election Code the provision that says really the electors, or it certainly is a strong conflict with state law, and certainly with case law. You also have an issue where we adopted a code of conduct, and no different than a lot of code of conducts elsewhere, has some provisions, and it's how you apply that provision as to whether or not you actually create an issue here. Sometimes the word personal is used for private, and private, if I look at Chapter 112, which is the ethics laws, private goes into private gain, and I don't think anybody here is making any statement that the viewpoints or the expressions by Mayor Nelson or Deputy Mayor McIntosh has anything to do with any personal or private gain. It's clearly in their capacity as an elected official and their ability to communicate. Not surprisingly, these are not the first time. MPOs are nationwide, all around the United States. This is not the first time that an elected official had a viewpoint different than their council. And I believe the remedy in the cases where it was brought up, the remedy was you don't have a right to that MPO seat. And that's something council, if council feels strongly, council can take that action. If council feels that they, that the 2 gentlemen here can carry through the orders and feels comfortable, that's fine. If not, we also have an alternate, and you do need to make sure that the alternate, who has been at a meeting, carries through with whatever policy of council of the majority. With that being said, I think that, I would take a very strong look that if you decided that you wanted to sanction one of the 3 people who've been to the MPO, because there's 3 people involved at MPO meetings, you would have to actually take a vote of city council to go forward and follow through with that process. In other words, continuing to talk about this at every city council meeting probably might do good. And again, on dioceses, you have qualified immunity to say what you want, that's fine. But again, to bring it up
What
at
do you
every
mean by
meeting.
sanction, Audrey? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
Sanction.
I mean, that's not
That's
what
what
I
it
have
says.
in mind, or at least my first
Well, I guess that's the
definition of
question
sanction.
to me
That's
is,
not what I have in mind at all.
What are you looking for? Are you looking to make sure that they follow company lines? Are you making sure that if they have thoughts that are different than the majority, that they are frozen or prohibited, or have a restraint, like a prior restraint from making any communication or any viewpoint of how they feel about an issue? I mean, what are you trying to achieve?
Well, so here we are again with a 5-2 vote, yet the voices of the 5 are not going to be heard, correct? Because of the 2.
I'm not going to say correct. I think, again, this is something that, based on how you listen to the minutes, you heard, here's how city council voted. I have a personal opinion, or I have a personal viewpoint. I don't think they said personal viewpoint, but something close to that. Or they didn't say anything, on the record. Did that express what council wanted? I don't know, because quite frankly, when you voted on January, the vote was to vote to send a letter. So if they brought up a subject matter not involved in the discussion, were they really on notice?
Here, let me try to help council out here. All right, I think that and I've done quite a bit of research of my own through all kinds of different people on this, because I had never brought this up before. Nothing like this has ever come up before that I've seen in 14 years. So and in our code of conduct that section is just, quite frankly, weird. It's come to find out, because it really doesn't mean what people would construe it to say. However, Audrey is right, is that really, if you serve as an ex officio on the regional planning council, or ex officio meaning that council that by right of your being a council member, council can put you on one of these things and you vote and they do their business. Historically, council has really never, you go to these meetings and there's an agenda, and the agendas don't come before council. You're kind of on your own. You go to region planning council, none of us will see that meeting agenda or the economic development. They don't see that. You're there, and you're there as a representative because you're there to represent, whatever in your own capacity. They call that autonomy, that a public official has autonomy, and it has an expectation that they will have an opinion and that they will voice that opinion, or they will do that. And also on the MPO, there's an expectation. The reason that the MPO doesn't consist of this internet thing to where they mail city council an agenda and they say, hey, city council, what do you think? And we go yes to A, no to B, no to C, and then everybody phones it in. The reason they don't do that is because they make these ex officio members, and you go there to debate and to argue and to listen. And if you're not going there to debate and to argue, well, then why are you going there? You're trying to sway that other person. I've seen that Cape Coral has 4 votes. The county commission has 5 votes. Very seldom do they vote the same. They vote all over the place. What's different here is that there's a real strong emotional content behind this, and there's a real will that something like that, you need to do that. And of course, if I've been used to going to those things and saying, hey, look, I know what the essence of this is. So that's what I did the last time. I don't believe, and the people that I've asked believe that that is in no way something that the code of conduct would not allow me to do. However, if you don't think that I or anybody else should be serving on a board because of one instance, one issue, and this is a one-issue deal. Right. I think that I've pretty much proven that I can get the job done for the last 10 years on the MPO. I've gotten a lot of good things for the city. But on this one issue, if you don't trust me on this one issue, or you believe that I will argue again or I will do something again, you do have the right. I think that is your remedy, and a remedy that I would support would be to remove or put whoever you want on the MPO. Now, what ramifications does that have? I don't know. And does that keep me from talking to the other MPO members? No, it actually allows me
Right.
to talk to the other MPO members. Right now, as an MPO member, I can only talk to them when it's on the record right in front of them. I'm off the MPO record. I can talk to them any day of the week, anytime I want to. So it's going to be up to you. And you know what? I won't know how I'm going to vote. I won't know how I'm going to vote until I hear the arguments. When I hear the arguments at the MPO, that's what I do. I listen to the arguments, and if somebody comes up there and say, hey, look, we need to do this, blah, 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 I see which way the wind's blowing, whatever, that's what I'm going to do. I can't make a promise I can vote one way or the other. So I think that it is. That is up to council to make a decision as to who you want on there. Audrey.
And that's correct.
I'll
I
come
do
right back
want
to
to
you.
point out another administrative code because, we're talking administrative codes here, and this is a code of conduct to try to implement Section 22. We also have another governing rule, and that goes into how we proceed with our city council meetings. And there's a very good statement in there, and it was adopted in 2003. This was never, incidentally, this code, when we set it up, was very cantankerous. I mean, there were some good fights as to how to bring things onto the agenda.
No, we never
Yeah,
did that.
that was a good argument too. But nobody had a problem with this one sentence, and I want to read it to you. The rules basically are courtesy to all, justice to all, the rule of the majority, the rights of the minority, partiality to none. And I think that's applicable in this particular case too. You have two people, I think they have a right to state how they, their political opinion. I think that if you apply the code of conduct to say that it acts as a restriction, then you have a content-based restriction, and at that point, it will not pass strict scrutiny under any kind of ordinance or policy under the Supreme Court, or under the U.S. Constitution. I can't make that First Amendment capability. I think if it's something, if you apply it towards a personal or a private gain, I think it makes a correct reading. But again, you are the ones who have to make that interpretation. I can't make that interpretation. I can tell you, I think what a court of law would do if you made an interpretation to say that elected officials do not have a right to have a political opinion when they are voted in to represent their folks. I think that's a very strong statement. I do not think that could be upheld by a court of law. You might not like what your attorney is saying. In this case, I actually have insurance counsel, which would be the one actually defending us if I could get insurance to cover it. But if that ever came up to those kind of droves. So I'm hoping that this issue is a non-issue at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to make the point. This isn't about conduct. This isn't about inhibiting anybody's First Amendment rights.
Well,
What
actually,
this
the
is,
only place that it's written like this is in our code of conduct. So if you're making an allegation of conduct, it needs to take per the charter, and as well as the ad code, and the ad code just parrots the charter in that provision, it needs to go to a vote of council, and then it needs a proper investigation. It also needs a proper time, so whoever is having that allegation has the ability to defend themselves, and it also has consequences to the city.
right, but that's not where I'm going with this. And if somehow the code of conduct, that's not where I'm going with this at all.
Well, that's the
What I'm
only
trying to
place where-
find
Well,
out.
let me,
Yeah, what I'm trying to find out here, what is the process, whether it's in the city charter, wherever it is, for the voice of the 5-2 vote here to be represented at this vote in August on the MPO board? And as the mayor said, this is, it's a single thing. It's not his calling into question his 10 years of service. It's just questioning how the 5-2 majority has a voice, has a vote at that August meeting.
Well, can I say
Yeah,
one
let,
thing?
let Mike jump in here. Mike, go
Well,
ahead.
you said the rule of the majority, but the right of the minority. So to me, that sounds like when you're at the meeting and it's discussion, you'd be allowed to say your personal opinions. But when it comes down to the vote, it should be the rule of the majority.
That's correct. And there's ways to do it. There could be a rewrite of another letter. In the past, when I've drafted these type of letters, and incidentally, for one of the citizens who decided that I caused a delay to this letter previously, I've had nothing to do with the first letter that went out. when I've drafted these letters and it has not been if it's a unanimous decision, I usually make sure it's very clear it's unanimous. If it is not a unanimous, I usually put in something like, here's the position of council, the 5-2, this is the vote. Here's the reasons why the 5-2 vote occurred, or the majority opinion. The minority was concerned about XYZ, and that could come in either the form of a resolution that you could pass because we don't need it till the August 22nd meeting of the MPO. That could be brought to your first meeting in August. Or alternatively, it could be another letter that council votes on that particular format of the letter. And I would hope that that resolution, city council took the vote tonight, that could be passed unanimously, because I think everybody could agree onto that language.
There are also 16 voting members. I'm going to go through this again. There are 16 voting members there. And so I think that along with this, if I were a councilman that wasn't serving on the MPO and I was free to talk to all of them, I would do as you have done, which is lobby, something that as an MPO member I can't do. I'm hamstrung in that way, and for good reasons. I mean, so council, you can get on your horse and go for it and use everything in the book, and but that your MPO members cannot. And I certainly, if I were in that position, I would do as Peter had done, which is avail yourself of that system, But I think I understand the difficulty in it. And I don't mean to be contrarian about this, but I mean, what it boils down to is that people have a right to really vote their conscience. And I think in that the one instance where it refers to, and back to code of conduct again, strange bird as it is, what it says is when one of us appears before on behalf. If I appear before the county commission on behalf of council, you guys send me there, we want you to go there on behalf of the council, and I go, okay, well, yeah, I damn sure better say what you want me to say when I agree to go there in front of the county commission. But the ex officio thing is a different story. When you are in that position, there is an obligation for you to do what comes to mind. And so I think that it boils down to this. You all can do what you want. If you're unsure that whether the three of us or the two of us or myself, that I didn't, advocate powerful enough, or I shouldn't have voiced my own opinion. If you're unsure of that, then your remedy, so far as your code of conduct says, don't talk about it. Tell staff to either investigate it themselves, but I wouldn't put them in that position, or have them hire somebody to do that investigation and to render you an opinion. Talking about it doesn't do it.
No,
But the real remedy is, is to either change horses when it comes to the MPO, because I think that's the way it is. And I'm not trying to encourage you doing it. I like serving an MPO, and I think I'm pretty good at it. And that's probably the problem right now, to tell you the truth, is that I feel as though I have an understanding of this issue regionally. But I think that's your remedy. But obviously, you don't have to do it. How many meetings? You can do it tonight if you want to, or you can. I would probably advise you, probably not a circumstance to do that. I would advise you to put it on an agenda, and say consideration of changing the MPO members, and if you want to do it like that, and then at our next meeting before the next MPO meeting. That way you can allow the public to know that you're considering to change your MPO members if that's the way you want to do it. And I would think that would be fair. I would consider that completely fair and what I would expect of my fellow council people. And there you have it.
Is there a process, Audrey, to elevate temporarily for one meeting, to elevate the alternate and appoint an alternate for one meeting
Well,
only?
we have the one alternate. First of all, you have 3 council meetings before, and the reason I have my 3 fingers out here, you have July 16th, August 6th, and August 20th. So let me get that off the record right now. So you have 3 meetings to discuss this before it goes to the MPO. If somebody on the MPO, one of our appointed members or 2, are not able to make it, we have Mike Gibson serves as the alternate. If 2 aren't, I guess you could have a temporary alternate and that would be for August 22nd.
Yeah, I don't think the MPO allows you to have a temporary alternate.
I don't think so either.
You would have to, and I think,
Here.
it's as simple as this. Maybe it's not. I don't know how long it takes. You could actually, I'm not, here I'm helping you again when I probably shouldn't, but that's okay. I have to. I don't think there's any rule so far as you saying, hey, you know what, for the next 2 months, we want so-and-so to be the MPO liaison, and then after that, it's the person could go, you know what, I can't do it anymore, I can't make the meetings. Why don't you make Ben the MPO member? I mean, you could.
The only
That's,
thing,
that's what I'm asking.
I'm just saying, I mean, there's nothing to
I think,
prevent that.
yeah,
I mean,
and-
I'm not suggesting that. I'm
and
just
there's
saying.
also, if you say that you're not going to go to the MPO meetings for the next 2 months, Mike Gibson would automatically serve because he's the alternate, or the next, I guess, 2 months, because I don't know if there's a meeting in July. Okay, so
No.
the next 1 month meeting, the August 22nd, then the alternate. I would request, I did have a conversation briefly with Don Scott, the director of MPO, and I would be cautious about doing that with Councilman McIntosh because of the fact that he is currently the chair of the MPO. My reluctance is if something happens to him, then the chair goes to the next person in the queue, and then Bonita Springs has, I think, about 8 years or so before the next time it gets to have a chair on the MPO. So I would not recommend doing that.
Yep.
If you like having somebody on the MPO who actually is from Bonita Springs.
Well, I'd like to have this discussion for a temporary elevation of Mike Gibson for the August 22nd meeting, and the elevation of somebody else here to voice the 5-2 opinion of this city council for that meeting only.
If it's, I mean, again, Mike Gibson is already the alternate. So if Mayor Nelson is unable to attend August 22,
Unable or unwilling.
or as if he's unwilling to serve as a beauty queen, no, as a pageant, Mike Gibson automatically has that position. That's up to Mayor Nelson, you know, if he wants to decide. Otherwise, you can vote on that. Again, I request that you don't do that with.
Why don't you, I mean,
Is
since,
there-
since it's August 20, whatever, 20.
We have 3 council meetings.
Why
before-
don't, this is just a suggestion. I think it's complex enough to where you all individually need to talk to Audrey about it, and you can all kind of individually figure out how you want to handle that part of it, and then have it put on an agenda, and then, I mean.
What I can do
go over
is
that,
for
because
the
it doesn't,
August
yeah,
6th
and
meeting.
you can put somebody on or off something
Or we
in
just
one
send you on
meeting.
an all-expense paid cruise for that.
Now you're talking, you are
No,
a
you
bright
cannot.
guy.
There is no public purpose to that.
Make that the
But-
Key West, and we got a deal. Is
No
that
problem.
extortion? Yes, it is.
A gift from your agency.
All right, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Steve, go
No,
ahead.
you cannot do that.
Steven?
Peter, with all due respects, do you think we could defer this due to the lateness of this meeting, meet with Audrey and everything? We could have further discussion at the next meeting?
I mean, I just think it's, here we are, you know? And this has been an issue for a lot of years, more recently from January now. I think, unless there's a problem, Audrey, I'm going to make a motion to elevate Mike Gibson for the August 22nd meeting and elevate Bill Longcart temporarily for the August 22nd meeting.
And I think I expressed to you, I think there is a problem with Deputy Mayor McIntosh.
He's not giving up his seat permanently. He's giving it up for that meeting
So,
only.
so far as the
Take him
MPO is
off.
concerned,
If
he
you send a
is.
letter, MPO treats it as he is off. I've talked to Don Scott about that, and if you do that, Bonita Springs no longer has the chair of the MPO, and it takes him out of the queue. But what I would recommend is if you do have one alternate there to express the view, all of council, although the clerk needs to make sure that we advertise if 2 or more members that are not members of the MPO are coming to the MPO meeting, and advertise it accordingly. I would recommend that you attend, and Councilman Longcart attend, and Councilman Martin, Member Slackta, whoever else has strong viewpoints on this issue, to make sure that council's majority is definitely heard.
Well, and that's one thing about the MPO meeting that happened is that no one came and spoke about this from the public or from anything else at the meeting.
Right.
That did not help, we'll say, your cause.
Right.
I mean, it just didn't.
But we're looking at a vote here. I mean, we're looking at a vote.
We're looking at a loss to the city of Bonita Springs. I don't think you can call it a temporary elevation and have it treated by the MPO as a continuation of his office. I think if you take him out of that office, you take the city of Bonita Springs out of that queue, and then we're down to the bottom of the line.
Who's the vice chairman right now? Wait 1 second, Janet.
Tom Leonardo.
Cape Coral?
Tom Leonard, Fort Myers, City of Fort Myers.
Myers.
Yeah, he becomes the chairman, and that's it. Yeah, Janet.
Gentlemen, I'm going to ask you that we just got through a very hard decision again for our council, and I think it's time for us to move forward. And I think that Audrey's suggestion that if we all have an opportunity to go there, we all have an opportunity to voice our opinions to the MPO members. I think they got a good dose of how we feel tonight, and I would rather we didn't go down this road, and let's get some business for the city done, and let's do a kumbaya moment here and move on.
Council? So how would you like to put that? Council, you just want to move on, or do you want? Let's move on?
Yes, please.
Want to move on?
Well,
Okay.
I mean, I did make a motion to elevate Mike Gibson
Oh.
for the August
that's right.
22nd
Okay,
meeting.
there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second. Who he's elevating instead of.
Well, I guess we can't unelevate you, so I guess that's you. That leaves you.
Okay, so there's a motion,
I second it.
yeah, there's a motion, a second, to give Mike the status of being the MPO member until further notice, or
Well, just for the August 22nd meeting.
for
I
the,
think it has to be until further notice, but you could have it so that as soon as that meeting is over, you could have.
until September 1st. How about that?
Okay, perfect.
For discussion.
And
Okay,
at the end of the day, this is coming down to votes.
got
So
it, got it. Okay, yes, discussion.
For discussion. I hear through the whole community, what in the world is going on in Bonita Springs? You know, the issue you're trying to solve, you're trying to gerrymander in some respects. You're trying to put the votes in where you think they belong without knowing how we're going to vote, first of all. Secondly, Ben Nelson will be the only person not on the MPO who's a mayor of a city, in the county of Lee County. I think it's an embarrassment to do something like that, not only to him, not only to this dais, but to this city. And that kind of reputation we don't need.
Well, Steve, with all due respect, I think it's an embarrassment that we voted 5-2 in January, and we didn't have a vote on this. It was just blasé, and it went through. So let's just agree to disagree.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Oh,
You have to take public comment. Why? You must take public comment on this motion. This is a new matter.
I will say that pursuant to the administrative code, it is not a new matter, but it is something
it
that
has
was
to be an
not on
emergency
the
nature. It's
agenda.
not on the agenda, an action item.
Exactly. Now, I
okay.
don't think you need to take public comment on it.
But I'm gonna ask,
There's
I'm
a
gonna
new
ask,
state statute.
since he's an attorney, I'm gonna ask him to come up here because he may have something actually practical to say.
I hope so.
Thank you, Mr.
Should
Mayor,
have said
members
that
of
louder.
council.
Go ahead.
My
Bob.
name's Robert Pritt.
By the way, this isn't public comment. This is just me inviting Bob to the party.
Well, yeah, thank you very much. This motion, I think, is something new. It's not what you were here to talk about tonight. I do believe that before the break, you announced that you were going to be talking about this matter, whereupon the members of the MPO, the staff of the MPO left. Now you find yourself trying to direct what the MPO's rules are. The MPO is federally funded, state-based organization, and you're trying to tell them what their rules are going to be. You can't do that. I would urge you, at least, put this on another agenda. Talk to Audrey if you want. Talk to anybody else if you want. Talk to the MPO. This is their rules. It's not your rules. You can't direct that. I agree that you do have the power to remove somebody from the MPO, but you don't have the power to elevate somebody else or to do temporary this or that. If you don't believe me, ask the MPO and make them tell you what to do. But just take a month and think about it. and then come back, and if that's your decision, or if you have a green light from the MPO, you certainly go ahead and do that. But I wouldn't do it without their recommendation, or without their advice. You're asking Audrey for advice. She can't speak for the MPO any more than anybody else can. Only the MPO can do that.
Okay, thank you. But if we instructed Audrey at this particular point in time, this is just a suggestion, if we instructed her to contact the attorney for the MPO and explain to them what the council is trying to do and what is the pathway to get there, that would be the more appropriate way to do it, and then put it on the next agenda.
Right. I was shocked when I found that the MPO people left.
Yeah.
After you announced you're going to talk about matters pertaining to
Well, that was my fault.
procedures in the MPO, I don't
My
think
fault.
so. I would have expected them
Yeah,
to
my
stick
fault.
around. You'd never leave in the middle of a discussion like that, but they did.
And I want to bring up 2 points. One is there was a new state statute change as far as public participation, so that one I'm not clear whether or not in the midst of a meeting you could require public participation. That I'll yield to research.
Well, you and I can talk about
We
that.
can-
All right, all right. Thank you, Bob.
But-
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
But I would point out to you, again, the second administrative code I read from you, the oldest one, the Administrative Code City Council meetings, if you remember I mentioned controversy in 2003, it was as far as council voting on matters that was not listed in the agenda. Council is not supposed to vote on matters listed, not listed into the agenda unless they first make a motion that there is good cause to decide that motion as opposed to holding off to the next meeting. And if they make that motion, then they can vote on it. Otherwise, they can't vote on the primary motion.
Okay, Council, you've heard the decision, and the decision says that from an attorney that we can't vote on this until first you found that there is good cause to do it now. And by that, it's an emergency. There's some reason it can't wait. If let's say that the MPO meeting was going to be before our next meeting or something like that, and you want to change it, that would be a reason to consider. So, Council, would you like to withdraw your motion at this time after hearing that new evidence?
I guess that means me, right?
Yep.
Okay, I'll withdraw it.
Okay. Now, would you like to have this? Would you like to instruct Audrey to contact the MPO's attorney, find out the pathway, and then put it on the next agenda?
Yes.
Okay. Well, is that okay?
It'd be August 6th.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. That good? We don't need to make a motion. You have verbal's good enough for you, right? Is that good enough? Okay.
I know, that's why I said August 6th. I cannot make it for July 16th.
Yeah, because there isn't a meeting.
No, there is a meeting.
There is a meeting. What's the
I
matter?
just
What?
cannot get it
The
personally
email that
done.
was sent out in error. It said city council meeting, the second meeting in July is on the 16th. It will be held on July 16th, council meeting.
Not get it done before
But-
July 16th.
I got it. I got it.
There's two different issues here.
Okay, we got
The
it. we got it.
meeting, the email that was sent for cancellation was for the city council zoning meeting on the 14th.
We'll get it done before the next MPO meeting.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Now I have no idea where we're at.
Michael?
Really, we're actually on item
Burke
B.
is here.
Holy moly.
And
I'm
let me
sorry.
do the present, if I can start it off. Thank you.
So much for item A. Knocked that one out of the park, didn't we?
This is, now that we've talked about something that is non-litigation, now I have something that is a matter of litigation to come before you and this is a.
I'm sorry. Hold on a second. If you all want to talk, you have to ask you to go out in the other room, please. Thank you very much. Audrey, go ahead.
Thank you. And this is a presentation by the city's special counsel, Michael Burke, regarding the Burke-Harris claim that has been filed the second time against the city of Bonita Springs from Carter Outdoor Advertising. We're meeting a statutory deadline, and he will be asking you how to proceed. Mr. Burke?
Good evening.
Sorry about the show, but hey.
Oh,
there
no,
you go.
very, very interesting.
I'm glad you think so, because
Enjoyed
not
it.
so much from up here. But go ahead.
Well, it's your perspective. That's
All
right.
Carry on.
Again, Michael Burke. I've been retained by the Florida League of Cities to represent the city with respect to a claim that's been brought by Carter Pritchett Advertising against the city under the Burke J. Harris Private Property Protection Act. You may recall that we were here before with respect to an essentially identical matter. It involved, that other matter involved 6 sign permit applications involving these same signs. Carter Pritchett has refiled applications for whatever reason they may have, and certainly don't need to take your time up at this hour to discuss that. But on August the 22nd, 2013, Carter Pritchett filed 7 sign permit applications. They seek to remove 7 Wonder Garden signs that they own and to construct more typical, very typical billboard signs at those and other locations along Old 41. Those applications were reviewed by city staff, and in October they were denied for a variety of reasons. The most prominent of one that in this matter is that the Wonder Garden signs did not meet the characteristics of a billboard and therefore were not eligible for replacement or relocation in accordance with your code. And as a result, since they're not eligible under that code section, they would have to meet the requirements of your code for any new sign, any new billboard sign to be constructed. And these applications clearly did not meet the requirements of your code for that, so they were denied. They essentially assert that in December of, or excuse me, in 2012, the city adopted a clarification with respect to that provision of your code as it relates to what characteristics a sign must have to qualify for relocation or rebuilding without complying with the current regulations. They allege that that provision has inordinately burdened what they characterize as real property, the sign ownership. And as a result, they seek compensation under the Burt-Harris Act because they maintain, and it's probably true, that if they were allowed to take the old Wonder Garden signs, throw them aside, and instead build new large outdoor advertising structures, that they would have a more valuable asset from having done so. Their claim, based on that kind of analysis, is for $700,000. There's a pre-suit procedure that's being gone through now, as you may recall from our prior discussion. The city's received the claim. The city at this point has the option of coming back with a settlement proposal that could involve, well, we'll allow you 1 sign but not 7. We'll pay you $100,000 but not $700,000. Or, as was done before, the city could stand on what was done and say, we're not going to alter our earlier position. We believe that this has not, in accordance with the Burt J. Harris Act, a viable claim. And instead, if Carter Pritchett desires, they could then proceed forward and file a lawsuit under that act, and then there would actually be litigation would ensue with respect to that. There'd be a number of issues that would be litigated. The primary threshold one, which you may recall from our earlier discussion, is that Carter Pritchett does not own the land where the signs are located. They don't allege that a provision has devalued land and other accoutrements to the land that they own. Instead, they own a sign that's on someone else's land, and they're contending that the city's regulation has impaired in some way the value of that asset, and that they should be allowed to sue under this Burt J. Harris Act for that alleged devaluing of that asset or that alleged loss of what they contend is a vested right. Previously, in a very similar situation, this body authorized me and directed me to write a letter advising that the city would not be providing any additional relief that would stand on its earlier denial of these applications, and that take the position that the permitted use of the Wonder Garden sign that you have is the Wonder Garden sign. You have that sign, and no one's asking you to take it down or remove it, but that's what you have, that's what you bought, and that's what you have. With that being said, unless there's any questions, would ask if you want me to pursue a similar course than was done before, or if you want to pursue some other course.
Janet?
I'd like to just go ahead and make the motion that we maintain course and that we stay with the same principles that we have been with from the beginning.
All right.
Okay, we got a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Okay, roll call.
Councilman Slakta.
Aye.
Mayor Nelson.
Aye.
Councilman Simmons.
Aye.
Councilman Gibson.
Aye.
Councilman Longcart.
Aye.
Councilman McIntosh.
Aye.
Councilwoman Martin.
Aye.
Okay.
And that's also for him to write the letter.
And write the
on
letter,
the
yep.
Another unanimous decision. Just
Look at
as
that.
was
Look
being
at
said.
us.
We can do it.
We
Big
have it
deal.
in us.
What's the big deal? We're suing somebody else. We're great. Anyway. Okay, and now we are at item 7, and that's consent agenda. Council, we have 2 entire items here.
I'll move to approve.
Well,
Second.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Take your pick. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mayor Nelson.
Aye.
Councilman Simmons.
Aye.
Councilman Gibson.
Aye.
Councilman Longcart.
Aye.
Councilman McIntosh.
Aye.
Councilwoman Martin.
Aye.
Councilman Slakta.
Aye.
Okay, and we are to first reading and public hearing of the following ordinances. Public comment is allowed. Audrey.
Thank you. The first ordinance is the following. This is an ordinance of the City of Bonita Springs, Lee County, Florida, extending the territorial limits of the City of Bonita Springs, Florida by the annexation of unincorporated tracts of land within the Heron Cove neighborhood of Pelican Landing, lying contiguous to and being in the same county as the City of Bonita Springs, Lee County, Florida, located in Section 9, Township 47 South, Range 25 East, assignment to City Council District 1, and providing for an effective date. This is a first reading. The second reading will be held on July 16th, 2014, at this, in these chambers, beginning at 9 a.m. I was about to say 9 p.m., which could happen. We do have staff here if you have any questions as to the location. I've reviewed the affidavit of publication, and it is legally sufficient.
Council, if there's no objection, I'll go ahead and take public comment at this time. Anyone wishing to speak in this matter, please come forward. Seeing none, public comments closed. Council, what's your pleasure?
Move to second.
Yeah, motion to move second reading. Is
Second.
there a second? Motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilman Simmons.
Aye.
Councilman Gibson.
Aye.
Councilman Longcart.
Aye.
Councilman McIntosh.
Aye.
Councilwoman Martin.
Aye.
Councilman
Aye.
Slakta. Mayor Nelson.
Aye. Okay, item 9, public hearing was public comment allowed. Go ahead. Item 9?
Item 9, I can introduce John Gucciardo, who will be presenting the.
Oh, yeah, this
City
is
of
John's
Bonita
deal.
Springs
I'm sorry.
Block grant. I have reviewed the affidavit of publication. It is legally
Thank you very much. John?
sufficient.
And this is the second of 2 public hearings that we have annually regarding the use of the CDBG funds. Once again, staff is recommending that the CDBG funds be used for public infrastructure projects within eligible areas. You have to obviously take public comment. We also have had, since we prepared this green sheet, a request letter from Kitty Green from Habitat for Humanity. We've got a very good working relationship with Habitat and have assisted them in some of their projects locally. Her request is that we consider using part of the CDBG funds for an infrastructure project near or on some of her property out at Red Hibiscus, and this would be for a playground, basically. We've indicated to Ms. Green that CDBG funds come with certain restrictions. We would need to check into the criteria to see if it would be an eligible expense at that particular site, and that there might be some thresholds that we need to cross. However, if that were the case, this would be one of the types of projects that we would be recommending. Typically, in the past, we just look for general direction from council at this point, so we would ask that the general direction be to also consider this one, and then we bring back specific projects to you during the July budget workshops.
Council, is that okay with you?
Sure is.
Okay, and at this time, we'll take public comment on this item. Anyone wishing to speak this time, please come forward. Seeing none, public comments closed. And council, what's your pleasure? Want to go ahead and
I'll move to
and
second. Yes.
move to second reading, or
And I'll
this
second
is the
that.
second reading?
Yeah.
Oh, you second that? Okay, sorry. Okay, so this is a motion to approve, and as you said, we will be, moving around, figuring out which particular items later.
Exactly.
Okay.
And we will be considering and looking into investigating whether or not this particular use that Habitat has requested would be appropriate.
Okay, any discussion, questions? Roll call.
Did we get
Was there a second? I'll second it. I'm not
I
sure there
did.
was, or maybe
Okay.
Janet did. Okay.
I'm sorry, there was a motion by Janet, second by Steve, or
The other
something
way
like that.
around.
Okay,
Councilman Gibson.
Aye.
Councilman Longcart.
Aye.
Councilman McIntosh.
Aye.
Councilwoman Martin.
Aye.
Councilman Slakta.
Aye.
Mayor Nelson.
aye.
Councilman Simmons.
Aye.
Okay, now, Audrey, we're back to you. Second reading and public hearing the following ordinances.
Thank you. And I have an affidavit of publication. It is legally sufficient. I'm going to read both, the first 2 ordinances together. Just the title block, and we'll talk about each one individually. This is an ordinance adopting and enacting a new code for the city of Bonita Springs, Florida, providing for the repeal of certain ordinances not included therein, providing a penalty for the violation thereof, providing for the manner of amending such code, and providing when such code and this ordinance shall become effective. And another one, an ordinance adopting and enacting a new land development code for the city of Bonita Springs, Florida, providing for the repeal of certain ordinances not included therein, providing a penalty for the violation thereof, providing for the manner of amending such land development code, and providing when such land development code and this ordinance shall become effective. This is the what we call the codification ordinances. Diane Lynn can give you the history and the background if council has any additional questions. It was reviewed by the local planning agency, the one dealing with, the land development code, who did find it sufficient, and like everyone else, cannot wait for August 1st, when I believe that's when it will be on our, goes live on the Municipal Code Corporation system. Diane can give you any further details.
Okay.
At our July 16th meeting, we're going to have a representative from Municipal Code Corporation here to kind of give a brief 15, 20-minute demo of how to search both of the codes. So I think that'll be pretty useful. And then it will go live August 1st on the municode.com website.
Okay. Council, you have any questions before we go to public comment? This time, anyone wishing to speak on this matter, please come forward. Seeing none, council, what's your pleasure?
Adopt the ordinance.
Okay. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. I know, we're all stunned, right?
And that's the first
Hard to function.
ordinance, that was item 10A, which is the regular code of ordinances.
Okay. Roll call.
Councilman Longcart?
Aye.
Councilman McIntosh?
Aye.
Councilwoman Martin?
Aye.
Councilman Slakta?
Aye.
Mayor Nelson?
Aye.
Councilman Simmons?
Aye.
Councilman Gibson?
Aye.
Okay. Item B.
And if there could, I read the title block into the record, if there could be a vote after public hearing,
Okay. And,
on this is the land development code.
okay, council, you have any questions on this before I go to public comment? Seeing none, any member of the public wishing to speak on this matter, please come forward. Seeing none, council, what's your pleasure?
Make the motion to adopt the ordinance.
Motion to
Second.
adopt the ordinance is in a second by Councilman, that guy over there. Sorry, I'm a veg. Hey, that's okay.
What was that?
Nothing. I'm gone.
Did I hear
I'm
you
brain
right?
dead. I'm brain dead. Anyway, roll call.
Councilman McIntosh?
Aye.
Councilwoman Martin?
Aye.
Councilman
Aye.
Slakta? Mayor Nelson?
Aye.
Councilman Simmons?
Aye.
Councilman Gibson?
Aye.
Councilman Longcart?
Aye.
Okay, moving right along. Item C, amendments to the Land Development Code.
Thank you. I've read the title block previously when this ordinance was originally scheduled on June 4th, 2014. This is a continuation from that public hearing. I believe Alexis Crespo will begin the hearing.
Good evening, council. We realized it was going to be a bit of a late meeting tonight, so I have prepared a brief presentation. I think I can get through this in about 15 minutes if the council will permit me to do so. What we'd like to cover tonight, we didn't touch on this at our first reading. I think it's a very important item for council to understand, which is the various locations throughout the city where big box locations can go. It's not just the vacant interchange parcels. It's not just on Bonita Beach Road, but there's multiple redevelopment opportunities that we want to show you, as well as other vacant parcels. So this is going to have citywide impact upon adoption. Also want to run through quickly the modifications we made from our first reading. There was lots of great input from council. We've also had a subsequent meeting with stakeholders and have significantly updated the document you reviewed in May. And then to close my show, we've done a lot of photos. I thought that was the easiest way to really tell the story of what the verbiage is proposing, is the photos of the status quo and the photos of the enhanced standards we are proposing through this ordinance. So this is our location map. This has been vetted with your community development department. These red dots are depicting locations due to zoning and size that can accommodate big box due to the square footage thresholds within the ordinance. So certainly we have a concentration at the interstate interchange, along Bonita Beach Road, at the Bonita Beach Road US 41 intersection, then northward. So these locations are in your major gateway areas. And what's really important to consider are all those redevelopment opportunities that are certainly going to be coming online over the next several years. And that's already starting at US 41 and Bonita Beach Road with that major redevelopment effort, as well as smaller redevelopments such as Rural King coming into Target. So there's a lot of opportunities to be implementing these enhanced standards across the city and really making that aesthetic impact that council directed us to achieve through these amendments. Quickly running through the modifications that were in your green sheet, something we heard loud and clear was orientation of big box to the arterial roadways. We removed that option from this ordinance. It was understood that that was not the character that council would like to achieve through these standards. We also removed the maximum setbacks, so some parking can go between the adjacent roadways and the buildings. We overhauled the community space section of the code, made it patron space, really limited the scope of that, created caps, and created minimal workable options that we believe developers can achieve without spending a lot of additional money within these developments. We also made some tweaks to bus stops to clarify they did not have to be internal to the site, created more flexibility with the architectural section of the code, including an alternate architectural betterment plan, and we removed the square footage cap. We had originally proposed 150,000 square feet for a standalone building, and it's understood that some of the Costco's and Super Walmarts can get up to 200,000 square feet, and that we wouldn't want to set a situation where a deviation is needed right off the bat from that limitation. And those really large buildings can be handled through the various standards we are proposing. So getting into the areas, I've broken this up per the ordinance, and I've just got pictures to show you what we're trying to prevent and what we're looking to achieve through the language. So to start, we address bikeways and pedestrian ways. And the first area is connection to external sidewalks, which I think we talked about since permission to advertise. This is an example of an existing Publix plaza. You can see the sidewalk ends that runs along Ben Hill Griffin, does not extend into the Publix. So a pedestrian wanting to enter that would then have to start walking into the vehicle drive lanes. So we're looking to require a connection internal to the site where they can continue to walk to their destination on a protected sidewalk. Internal sidewalks. This is an example of something we're trying to preclude through these regulations. This is actually a pretty nice Target in Naples area, but their sidewalk connection for some reason terminates and you have to walk across about 6 parking spaces to get to the front of the building. So we want to make sure that the sidewalks connect all the way to the front. There's a crosswalk and that very defined pedestrian space within the parking lot areas. So it's an option for people who don't want to walk within the parking lot areas. Access to buildings was also something we wanted to cover. We did not want a scenario where there was no sidewalks and where the building would terminate into the parking lot area. So we are looking to require an 8-foot wide sidewalk along that frontage that would accommodate street furniture, planters, and adequate room for people with carts to pass each other as they enter and exit the building. And then lastly in this section was bicycle racks. We significantly reduced the requirement based on feedback we received since the initial submittal. The text for this is simply precluding the bike racks from being within the parking lot area, which can create pedestrian vehicular conflicts. So we are requiring them to be adjacent to the building for public safety reasons. Getting into lighting, this is a pretty simple section. We are simply trying to avoid scenarios where trees mature and then block out the lighting, and this becomes a problem at night where the light is not getting to where it needs to be for vehicular and pedestrian safety. And this is a Naples example. This next picture is from Naples Daily, and the trees had to be cut to achieve the lighting that was necessary for Publix to ensure safety of their patrons. So this is what we're proposing. This is the Alico Publix, Alico on 41. You can see the lighting feature is within a planted island, but without a tree. That's going to create the conflict where the tree blocks the light fixture. As an alternative, you can also do a freestanding pole per this code. This is one with a curbed base, and our request is to provide for a decorative base that is consistent with the architectural of the building. So when you look between those, there's a significant aesthetic enhancement when you have that base not being just plain curbing. Again, enhancement of aesthetics as requested by council. Getting into landscaping, we were focusing primarily on building perimeter plantings, softening those really massive buildings through plantings, as well as protecting scenarios where big box is adjacent to residential. So this is looking at back of house or loading area at a Walmart site, and there's two items covered in this picture. First, no perimeter plantings to soften the building, and then also the buffer provided as a chain link fence, which does not necessarily provides for security, but not necessarily the aesthetic effect or screening effect that you'd want in terms of opacity. This is an example of a Target in Naples where the back of house building perimeter plantings are provided, again, to soften the building, and at the same time perimeter walls with the type C buffer plantings to protect the adjacent residential uses where applicable. And this would not be required if big box is adjacent to other commercial uses, just to clarify. That was strictly for residential. And this example is also of a loading area that meets the intent of the code we wrote, where the loading area is screened by an opaque wall and the building perimeter plantings are also provided to, again, soften the building. When we talked about the building perimeter plantings surrounding the building, we wanted to clarify that building perimeter plantings are not the same as your project perimeter buffers. It's not requiring a 4 to 6 foot hedge. Building perimeter plantings are small ground cover, mulching, smaller shrubs. You can see the palm tree to the side, but these are not going to be large plantings that are going to be creating safety issues where people can jump out at employees as they're exiting the building. So it's really just to add more green space, add more vegetation to the overall plan when you're dealing with these very large buildings. The divider median concept, again, add more vegetation to these types of developments. The average parking lot area for Walmarts and Targets is anywhere from 5 to 9 acres in size of parking. So these are pretty massive paved areas. So what we were looking to is increase the internal tree requirements and also create scenarios where you could incorporate these planted medians within the project. It's going to provide access and it's going to break up those really large parking areas. So it serves a dual purpose. So here's an example with an architectural feature. We are not requiring that for our code. This is just a nice example from another community. Here is one from Naples where you can see the shrubs, the canopy trees, again, to provide the greenery as well as the pedestrian access. We also looked at shopping cart storage screening. We really wanted to be holistic with this code. A lot of communities have touched on some of these elements, but we really wanted to bring it all together and make sure we were covering all aspects that can affect the aesthetic quality of big box establishments. So this is an example of a cart in the middle of cart storage in the middle of the parking lot with no screening at all, and it can be a quite an eyesore from the adjacent roadway. So we provided several options for applicants. The first is simply to locate the cart storage area on the planted side of the divider median to screen the cart area, which is simple enough. You're required to do those internal planted medians anyway. Just put the cart on the side of it where it's screening it from the street. Alternatively, you could provide decorative corral storage areas. This is an example from the East Coast that we were able to pull. So again, providing options depending upon the developer's intent for the site. Getting into patron space, we reduced this to 5% of the site, not to exceed an acre. Clarified through several sections, this is not for public use. This is for patrons of the site as well as the employees, is really the intent of this. And we provided a variety of options. We're asking that the developer provide 2. And we've tried to make it so it's simple and cost effective and not really anything additional that they wouldn't already have to do. For example, to provide your 2 required patron space, you could simply do a picnic bench seating area in front of the store, which is becoming the norm these days to allow that break space for employees. And you could do a water feature within your stormwater management pond. And we did clarify in the code that the entire acreage of the lake would count towards the requirement. So if you have a 1 acre stormwater management pond, you put a fountain in it, and then have a picnic bench near the front of the store, you've met this requirement. So we tried to make it more user-friendly and less of a burden on the developers. Transit facilities. This is quite simply requiring covered shelters as opposed to this Lee County example in front of a Walmart where there's just no shelter. Not very good for those entering and leaving the site by transit. Here's an example in front of a Publix with absolutely no seating. And so our requirement is to have a covered seating area for those patrons to be able to use that. We also clarified that the intent is not to have transfer stations at these sites, added language to address the developer's concerns, that it wouldn't turn into a bell tower where buses are stopping and drivers are exchanging buses. So we didn't want to create that type of conflict within these developments. I won't go into too much detail on the building design standards. Sam Vincent is here, and I think he'd like to address you briefly. What we did try to do through this section, though, is create a menu of options depending on the style of building the developer's architect wanted to achieve. We also opted for a betterment plan if they weren't meeting some of the criteria we proposed, and staff and council could evaluate those on an individual basis to ensure they met the intent of the code. And then the last area is the development standards portion, which would be in your chapter 4. What this section is doing is requiring plan development zoning approval for these types of developments. I think it was agreed upon by council that you would really want the review of these types of development due to their size, scope, and scale. So that could come through that process and have a thorough staff review as well as being vetted by city council. We removed a lot of the different development options as it was felt it was not appropriate based on the character of City of Bonita. And so we have narrowed it down to the out parcel and the liner building to screen the parking areas. And so I wanted to get into this in a little bit more detail. This is the Colonial Walmart at 6 Mile Cypress and Colonial, and they don't have any out parcels or any buildings screening their frontage. So, and I also should note that those trees are in the median of 6 Mile Cypress. They're not buffer trees. So the buffer on the site is really back there. And while this does somewhat soften the parking lot, we felt for what City of Bonita wants to achieve with these regulations that more than just the code minimum type D buffer should be provided in order to screen more of that 9 acres of parking, which is the case with this situation. And you can see from the aerial view, there's just basically a free shot of that parking area. So what are other communities doing to help frame these developments from the roadway, create a little bit more pedestrian accessibility? Because certainly when a pedestrian enters that site, they've got to cross that entire parking area before they can get into it. So we looked at some local examples that meet the code we have proposed, which is 60% street frontage coverage. This is the Galleria Shops at Vanderbilt. Those are the out parcels along the airport polling road frontage. And it's providing an opaque blocking of a lot of the parking area. The buildings are obviously of attractive architectural character, meeting the architectural code. So there's no concern that the buildings wouldn't be attractive because you do have those strong standards in place. And this code actually goes above and beyond what you've already have established. So we felt this had a better communication with the street, did more to block the parking area and really create a more dynamic, aesthetically pleasing development. And that's the aerial view. That northern out parcel has been since developed, so between those 4 out parcels, they have achieved the intent of the code. And you also have a great local example with Bonita Crossing at Bonita Grand. My office is just behind this Publix. And they've got 5 out parcels that screen the view of their parking area. And I think you have a great local example of what we're trying to achieve. That happened organically. They weren't required to do that. Our code would now create that requirement so that, as John said, a lot of the things in this specific development happened by luck because the developer wanted to do something really nice. Well, now we're going to put in some more requirements so that this is really your end result and you don't have a situation where you don't have buildings blocking views, at least partially. And then the other option was the liner building. And I'll probably just cut to your local example. This is an example of a liner building in the city of Bonita Springs. again, a very high architectural character of that building. It's attractive from the road. I personally think this is one of the nicest buildings and developments in the city of Bonita. As you travel down 41, it creates a nice view shed. Again, it's blocking the parking with some buildings in addition to the landscape buffers. And so it's achieving that intent of a higher standard. And so that's the aerial view, and that's showing that the 70% of the parking area is being blocked through this standard. So that concludes my presentation. I hope we've cleared up and addressed a lot of the questions you had previously. We worked hard to create a good ordinance. There were some additional comments from the Bonita Exchange staff, and specifically Neil Montgomery, that we did receive. We are understanding that this is a living document. Zoning codes change. Right now, I think we have got a good document to move forward with. As we go through the implementation process and we see things that could be improved to create better development, we can certainly take those back to you through staff. But tonight, we'd respectfully request your approval. And Sam, would you like to address council for any of the architectural, or would you like to?
Okay, let's go to council. See, okay? Council, you got any questions before I take public comment here?
Just,
Yes.
No, I just want to make a couple.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, first, I want to thank Councilman Gibson, because he took a lead on this thing that I hadn't really thought of a lot of the things you talked about, Mike, so thank you for that. I appreciate that. Secondly, given the nature of our residents, do we have, what about handicap parking? Are we increasing, it seems like during season, we simply don't have enough handicap parking spaces. Are we anywhere near, I mean, I don't know what's state mandated. Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
We did not go into section 4-2020, the parking standards for this big box update. That's something we can certainly look at in our next phase that we're coming forward with pretty shortly here.
Yeah,
So we have not addressed that, but can do so.
I don't know if it's necessary, but if you just think about it or take a look at it. And lastly, I like where we're going with this thing, but have we calculated what the additional costs are going to be for a developer to come in and build something like this?
In some case, well, no, to answer your question directly, no. These additional standards do cost additional money. That's why they're not proposed for every retail establishment citywide. These are,
I'm not saying they're wrong, but if you could, next iteration, if you could just give us sort of a percentage increase, maybe, not necessarily dollar.
Okay.
But it doesn't have to be specific, but ballpark, if it's 40%, that's a problem for me. If it's 2%, so just let us know. Thank you.
can do that.
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Is there any way to, is there ability to have exceptions made?
Tonight?
Situation with the out parcels, if the 60% screenage doesn't work for the type of buildings that they're trying to accommodate.
In a commercial
different
plan
businesses.
development, exceptions can be entertained, right?
Correct. Through the PD process, deviations if they don't change their DO, they would not be subject to these requirements. So if they do want to change, they can do.
In general.
In general, a deviation process, they can
So
show
we-
their layout and get staff and council to approve a deviation.
Okay, so we can still work with them. This isn't the end all be all. It has to be
No,
this way.
And that's why it's great that this has to be a PD, because there may be things unique to specific sites, such as the Bonita Exchange site, where they've got a preserve next to them. So they may not need to do the enhanced buffer next to residential, because it's not immediately adjacent to the residential. So this will absolutely be evaluated on a site-specific basis.
Or a particular lot could be an unusual shape or size or something, so they need to do something. And there's almost always deviations when it comes to these things of a certain type. And for the most part, most of them are been approved by, or recommend to be approved by staff. Yes, Audrey.
And that's the point I was about to raise, is that 90% of them tend to be administrative deviations.
Yeah.
Meaning if it falls within the jurisdiction that staff, the community development director, has the authority to do the approval, and he thinks it's a wise idea, he'll do the change. Otherwise, it goes to council.
And the other thing was, it says that the patron space is required to be direct access to the public sidewalk network. If it's patron space just for the employees and the patrons, shouldn't it be the internal sidewalk network? and not the, you know, eventually it'll lead to the external.
Because they're all connected, I didn't see that as a significant issue.
Well, it's
but
just worded as the public one, so it sounds like it needs to be out, you know, right along the road on the public sidewalk.
I think if the motion was to modify that, as you stated, wouldn't have an issue that would look to staff. Yeah, I think that's fine.
Be adjacent to the main building or directly adjacent or
What
something like
section is
that?
that?
or-
Well, just
no, you
have
don't
it worded
oh,
as
no.
the internal sidewalks and not
It's 262.
direct access to the public. sidewalk.
Internal to the site.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because right now it says direct access to public sidewalk. If that direct access is through the internal sidewalk, then that's fine.
I would
That'd be fine.
think that's a good change to make, yes.
Good. Mikey, anything else?
No, I think I'm good.
All right, good. Anyone before I go to public comment? Thank you, Alexis. We'll
Thank
have you
you.
back up. Anyone wishing to speak from the public at this time, please come forward. He said to her directly.
For the record, Neil Montgomery, and I recognize at 9:36, no one actually wants to hear from me. Let me just say this in regards to the ordinance and all the pictures that Alexis just showed you. I'm not any objection to those. The only one I have any concern about over all the ones she showed you was the last one, only as it relates to what Mr. Gibson pointed out, and that is the percentages, because the percentages don't work. And that can be addressed through other means, such as landscaping to break up near the view of the parking lot. You don't have to create buildings, out-parcel buildings that don't really meet today's standards. I have obviously, you've received my letter, and I've set forth a lot of concerns, and again, Mr. Gibson touched on one of them, and that is we still have references to community space that weren't caught, and we have at least two places where we're supposed to connect to the external sidewalks and direct access, and I think we expressed the last time that that really wasn't what we were trying to accomplish. There are probably three main things in here that are very important. Alexis didn't really talk about them, but they are the things that make this very challenging. One, the percentages for the out parcels and the liner buildings, the recesses and projections, and we do need the ability to obviously have betterment plans for landscaping. So it's really items 13, 17, and 20 on the list of things that I sent you. So 17 relates to the certain requirements in regards to covered walkways, which are 16, 20, and 24, which can be problematic. Now, I have talked to John earlier, and we went, and other things, simple things that need to be fixed. You discuss principal buildings in there a lot. You don't define them. You define anchor buildings, but you don't define principal buildings. And in speaking with John, they are something different than anchor buildings, so I don't really know what they are yet. I say all that to say I can read all these to you. I can expound upon them. I don't think you want that. I think the staff has done a wonderful job in meeting with us and resolving a lot of our concerns. Some of these are very minor concerns that can be fixed pretty quickly. The three items I mentioned are going to take some discussion with architect to architect. I think they can be resolved. I would like for them to be resolved. I suspect that there's two ways to do this. I know which way the staff wants. They would like you to adopt it tonight and then agree we'll come back. That makes me a little nervous because then I got to trust you that you're actually going to bring them back and there's any motivation or incentive to have dialogue. The other thing we can do is, work on it and then come back. I noticed that Alexis had a picture of the Publix on Beach and 75. I worked on that one. I did that zoning while we were in the county. That was a highly regulated plan development, as are a lot of things that you have here. You also pointed to the Publix at Beach and 41. That was a very nice Publix that was redeveloped under the existing big box regulations. So I know you want to make it better. I don't know that I think anybody's going to rush in the middle of summer, to do anything. So I think there's time to fix it. I'd like you to do that. But either way, I'd like to be able to get some of the things solved that I think are still glitches that need to be fixed.
Let me ask you a question.
Want me to read them all, or can we kind of?
No.
I didn't think so.
I thought you probably guessed that one. I'm going to have Arlene come up here right now. Could you come up for a minute? Yeah, go ahead. I just wanted to make you walk around a little bit. That's okay. Arlene, explain the process. We adopt this tonight, and I know it's not perfect, and they never are
Correct.
perfect, but we adopt this tonight. Please explain the mechanism so that council knows, as if you go back and work with Neil as you work with these things that may be applicable, what will the process be in amending it?
We absolutely are. We are a business-friendly community. We plan on looking this. We realize this is a new ordinance for our community as we work through the process with developers. And your staff does find that there is opportunity that revisions need to be addressed. We will certainly bring them to your attention to make revisions to this ordinance as necessary. And we will continue to work with Ms. Montgomery and the other applicants. I did want to quickly just draw your attention back, if I can get back to the original map that showed you the locations. You do have potential folks, so I just probably went the wrong direction.
The first one.
Yeah, the very first map.
Of course.
Right here, correct. These are the locations that these can go in currently right now. You are receiving inquiries from folks to look into these locations, not necessarily all big box, but redevelopments of big box. This is a current situation that we have. And we do know that we were given direction from council during your strategic planning session that aesthetics was a top priority for the community, and we need these tools in place to be able to look at these redevelopment projects. But of course, we plan on working with every developer as they come in. We've also had the opportunity for a betterment plan so that we look at site-specific issues that, for example, like Alexis said, when there is, when there is a preserve area in the back, there may not be necessary for additional plantings. We want to work with those betterment plans. We've also provided many different alternatives in architecture, which makes us different from some neighboring communities. There's a lot of opportunity for some input on architecture and design that we work with folks on too. So of course we want to keep our business-friendly perspective here, and we will continue the process of making revisions as needed.
Okay, so there's a possibility that through this process, any change that we make in this code after we adopt it tonight, any change?
Respond to what she just said, because what she said is we can come talk to you, and if anything I say is meaningful, we'll come back. I have to just say, if I'm going to agree not to go through everything and come back, I want more than, hey, everybody has the right to come talk to us and we'll come back. There's some things that need to be fixed. They do. And I'd like more of a commitment that we are going to work on them and we will come back, not we have the opportunity and maybe we'll come back.
We're planning on continuing discussions, especially with this particular developer.
Do you want her to hold her hand up like this when she says it? You had that coming.
We understand that we have an active development on this particular
So
site.
if we adopt this tonight, our staff is going to work with...
Staff has made a commitment to work with this developer. We've already started that process. We've had numerous conversations and a face-to-face meeting with the property owners and the prospective buyers of the property. So we intend to keep that commitment.
Okay?
We will keep that commitment. But
All right.
again, the reason why we're asking for adoption tonight is because we need protection on all those areas
Not
up
them,
there right now.
Other people.
Okay.
So is that okay?
We're going to be back, right?
Yeah.
We're going to be back like August and September.
Oh,
to
yeah,
fix
oh,
some
yeah.
of these,
You-
like,
I know you're gonna
things
be
we
back.
I want to be back. I like you guys.
You
I
come
wanna be
back, come back, come back, see us.
Can I address one more thing?
Absolutely, go ahead, Mike.
On the out parcels, can we change the percentage to be 60% of building and landscaping to cover the, does it have to be built, just buildings? Because if the liner buildings are 70%, that means our out parcels are almost to liner status.
I think you can reduce the percentage per amount. I would want to keep it, I mean, we did a tremendous amount of research for this, and we don't want to leave you with the status quo. We want to put some.
And again, through the exemption process or the special exception process, they will come to us and go, Mike, I mean, look, we can't meet that because here's our layout, and it comes to 55% or whatever.
But could it still be 60% building and landscaping to require the buffering?
That could create a situation where they wouldn't have to have any buildings potentially, and it would just be entirely the landscaping screening, which we're seeing that the nicer, newer developments coming in across Southwest Florida and the state really as a whole have these regulations in place to screen with buildings as well.
Yeah, there wouldn't have to be a primary structure then.
Right, if it was then you could
Or
do
combination thereof?
Yeah.
You have to have both, say, 40% building and minimum 40% building, but total 60% screening.
We may be overcomplicating it. I mean,
well, I would just Arlene just reminded me again that I think I can give you 10 examples of those that have met the 60% requirement. that we're proposing, so that it is workable. Now, if you have a specific site that it's not based on you have end users in place, they just can't make their building oriented the way it would need to be, I think that the deviation process would allow you guys to have a picture of the uniqueness to that site, and I think it's better on a site-by-site basis, in my professional opinion, however.
Okay, I just want to make sure that all out parcels aren't going to start looking like liner buildings, because then there really isn't a choice, because we're down to 10%.
Right.
All right.
And I think Burnwood is the best example, which, as Neil said, she worked on. And
Okay, council, what's your pleasure? Are you okay with
I'd like to go ahead and make the motion to move forward the ordinance with the caveat that staff will continue to work with our applicants and stakeholders.
I'll second that.
there's a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Point of clarification, just that we made the changes on page 14 of the draft, dealing with the external. I omitted that language, took it out, that you mentioned. And also, we noticed calculation of patron space. We didn't finish the sentence completely in 2 spots.
Good, thank you very much. Any other questions, comments? Roll call.
Councilwoman Martin?
Aye.
Councilman Slackton?
Aye.
Mayor Nelson?
Aye.
Councilman Simmons?
Aye.
Councilman Gibson?
Aye.
Councilman Longcart?
Aye.
Councilman McIntosh?
Aye.
All right,
Thank you.
go build something, Neil.
Well, I can't yet, because I have to come back, but you guys promised I'll be back, right?
Yes, you will. All right, public comment. Anyone wishing from the public to speak at this time? Wouldn't recommend it, but go ahead and come on up here. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Anyone wishing to speak at this time, please come forward. And on any city item.
Any subject?
Any city item, yes, please.
Any city item?
Yes, should be pertain to the city in some manner. Yes.
Okay, I'm a resident of Bonita Springs. My name is Joseph Preet. I live at Calypso Way, which is part of the Lightner Creek subdivision.
Yes.
That area was built in the late 1960s. It was mobile homes
Yes.
were brought in. At that time, a lot of the people that lived there were just winter residents, and then later on became retirees. Now, it's a neighborhood consists of working class people. I would not have brought this item to the city council, but I haven't got any response from anybody at the city. There's a house next to mine, a mobile home, that's totally destroyed, ripped apart, and they've taken all the aluminum off it and everything, and just the frame is there. And I have the pictures to show you. This is what starts urban blight and decay, okay? Because the first one goes down, and then the next one goes down. And I can tell you that because I saw the same thing happen when I grew up in New Haven, Connecticut, which was the where the Winchester factories were, for Winchester firearms. They built Winchester and Colt did most of the supplying of hand weapons and rifles for the United States during World War II. And after the war was over, they closed the plants, and little by little, all the windows got busted out, and the buildings got burned, and everyone moved out of the neighborhoods. And I'm seeing the same kind of thing happen here, okay? They go one by one, destroys the neighborhood. So my concern was to contact someone in the city and get it just towed out of there or something.
Okay.
The only thing I got was it's owned by some mortgage company somewhere. That's all I got out of it. Okay. I did not want to bring this issue to the city council because I know you guys, after being here for the last 2 hours, you have more important issues. I don't know what to do, is my dilemma.
Joseph, if you could do me a favor, once we get out of this meeting, or if you would want to slide over, John, could you go in the other room with him and you give him all the information you've got, and he's going to help you, okay? Would that be all right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Because, I mean, there's really nothing from the dais we can do right here about it, but,
Well,
John-
I understand that. I
Yeah.
understand that, but I've
But-
been making these calls for weeks now.
well, you can see him in person now. Go right in there if you want to. I just want to make the offer. I'm not telling you have
Oh,
to,
no,
but,
no, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
At least something will get done.
good. Go on in there and give John all your information you got there, and he'll see that you get to the right person. Okay, Joseph? Because you're right. That's not a good thing. Anyone else this time? Please come forward. Say, didn't get out of my mouth. There you go. I'm going to make you sit in the front, Ron. You need to sit in front so you can get up here.
Mayor, I apologize earlier for, I think you may have misunderstood me. I don't
That's
mean
all
you-
right.
This is not on yet, is it?
Oh, it is now.
I'll take back the apology. But on that issue, that was a long time coming, and I'm glad that you went in that direction
carry on.
tonight,
That's
that you
okay.
did go as far as the billboards are concerned. The other issue is Spring Creek, number whatever, coming up. And look, it appears as though there's a new wrinkle, and it's good in the long run that you folks will embrace the idea of studying other matters beside trimming of mangrove and dredging, which are the two real important ones for that area. And I'd just like to bring some things to your attention. Maybe you know the stuff, perhaps you don't. There's no question about Spring Creek being a public access area. It is a public right-of-way in the area, and that is the case. So, and I guess that's why the city's chosen to become involved. Now, the jobs that were discussed in January are already overdue in terms of the scheduling and the outline of the schedule of events that take place over the past 6 months. So we're behind the 8 ball a bit there. So again, to avoid this becoming a boondoggle with embracing this big picture of Spring Creek, which I'm in favor of, and many others are as well, I'd like to put the emphasis again on those two issues, trimming, dredging. I want to be redundant tonight about that. One of the important players in the game of dredging, to my knowledge, hasn't been contacted. WCIND, the West Coast Inland Navigation District. I'm a little bit surprised that they haven't been engaged at this point. You're only forging ahead with what you seem to think is the only way to go here. I think that's an organization that must be involved. They had passed along to me several years ago a financial commitment, provided they get the approval of the board of directors that was in place that were in place at the time. That didn't happen. It was a former Lee County commissioner that kiboshed the move forward to spend money in Spring Creek for the dredging. Who pays for whatever is being done or will be done with trimming? Can I have a few more, another little
I
bit here?
think you need to wrap it up because
Okay.
we're going to lose. Yeah,
Okay,
you're going to lose us.
all right. Bonita Bay easement, I took a look at that. The language is a little bit too loosey-goosey, not specific enough or not expansive enough with respect to what can happen in Pelican Landing to their benefit and to Bonita Bay and to other property owners. The DEP said, I believe, I heard it, a couple of months ago, what are we waiting for with respect to those permits having to do with mangrove trimming? They're ready to boogie. Don't make any mistake about it. It is not, trimming is not a big brain item.
Okay.
Two very, very articulate and bright women said, let's get rolling here.
Okay.
We're holding up the act. And the dredging, again, has got to be jumped on real fast so that the job may get done in the foreseeable future. And I thank you very much.
Thank you very
Look
much,
forward to your tabling what you have before you tonight. I appreciate the effort, but please table it for just a wee bit longer. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Anyone else this time, please come forward. Seeing none, we are on our way again here. City Attorney's report. You don't have anything for us, do you, Audrey? No, you don't. City Manager's report. City, I know, she's not here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's been about 3 months now, but we have taken the information that the council gave us at the strategic planning session, and we have consolidated it into action plans here based on priorities that we could best tell given the information that we had that evening, as well as the discussions we've had at council over a variety of issues before and since then. What we're looking for tonight is for council to consider adopting the reworded vision, adopting one or the other of the proposed mission statements, and then adopting the new values, which actually added just one word, and that word was empathy. Separate from that, we are also asking council to officially adopt the strategic priorities and action register, which are in the same format that we've adopted before. And to try to keep any confusion down from the public, we actually tried to use the same type of wording for the major priorities and then went into each in the action register itself. Obviously, this is what we understood the council wanted in the strategic plan. If you have any changes, of course, we will obviously take those and adopt those into the document as council directs. And we stand ready for any questions you may have.
Council, you have any questions or comments? Yes, Mike.
At the workshop, I had brought up that we should have a waterway maintenance plan for all our waterways. I didn't see that in here.
Okay.
And then as far as the mission, I guess the first one instead of the alternate.
We will add waterway maintenance plan at the appropriate place here. Okay. Any other council comments?
Any other comments?
I
Yes,
do
Mike.
have one,
Bill.
with Ron Pure was just up here. Submit dredge permit application by next year, March 3/1. It's going to take that long?
No, but that's the date that that staff suggested, but it's not going to take that long.
Okay.
To submit it.
Yeah.
To get it's an entirely different
understand.
question. Right.
Okay.
So
thank you.
we could adopt a different date on that, but.
Okay.
It's not like you're going to use it as an excuse not to do it till then, yeah.
Well, that's true, and again, there needs to be a recognition that there's a lot on our plate right now. There's only a certain number, as you know, of employees, and so we can't get everything done all at once. We want to make sure that we recognize the council's priorities.
Council, you okay with this?
Yeah.
Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
There's a motion to approve as
Modified.
Modified. Bill, do you have anything else for us?
No, just a second.
Okay.
Okay, so the vision's okay from what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
What has been proposed is that we adopt the first mission statement, not the second. Values are okay, and then with modifications made for
Water maintenance.
waterway maintenance
Maintenance.
plan, then the rest of it seems to be okay.
We good?
Accurate?
Yep.
Good? Good.
We
Of course,
understand
when
the
we wake up in
motion.
the morning, we're probably going to change our minds, but then we'll cross
Okay.
that bridge when we get to it.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilman Slakta.
Aye.
Mayor Nelson.
Aye.
Councilman Simmons.
Aye.
Councilman Gibson.
Aye.
Councilman Longcart.
Aye.
Councilman McIntosh.
Aye.
Councilwoman Martin.
Aye.
Thank you all.
Okay, do you have anything else for us?
That's it.
Okay, and then we are to mayor and council member items, and Councilwoman Martin, you have something on here
Yes,
for
I
us?
do. I have a really feel-good, yummy thing here for all of us, and that is that the Art and Public Places Board has very excitedly approved this conceptual art piece by Alexandra Nunez, who just also completed the mural for the Benson's grocery store. This is for in front of the CenturyLink building, and the discussion is that staff needs to talk to CenturyLink some more. We haven't gotten this to them yet, but because of budget timing and all of that, what we're asking is, tonight is for
Oh, quit teasing us. Show us.
motion to authorize staff to continue working with the artists, but this is awesome. And what CenturyLink has asked
Steve,
is
could you help her hold it up there?
somehow would
He was
they
trying.
incorporate the idea of the
A little higher, a
telephone.
little higher.
So what he has done
Ooh.
is made this view onto downtown Bonita Springs with a reflection of the past, and he's got the old-fashioned payphone, the telephone here, he's got the telephone wires, so that CenturyLink it's there. And the most dramatic piece that I think is so awesome that he came up with is that this is the CenturyLink logo's colors, right there.
How
In
clever.
the stained glass window. So how awesome can that be? They can't not approve this. The other artist conceptual piece was in our packet, and she is looking to move forward with her art piece on the side of the Bear Building. So this is very exciting, very cool. So
So you're looking for authorization for staff
staff
to
to continue to work with these artists on getting their
prepare the necessary agreements?
exactly.
Okay.
Yes, please.
So moved.
And we have a motion and a second by Councilman Martin. And any
Did you hear that? I
any
did
other
that.
discussion? Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Did I forget
Did you,
something?
we need the authorization for mayor's signature.
Correct.
Yes,
We
I'm
actually,
sorry.
On the
in your packet, you have a letter from Bear authorizing us to place a mural on their building. And we have a conceptual drawing from Alicia, so from our artist, for the Bear Building only. We're gonna wait on the CenturyLink building till we get a letter from authorization
So
from
you
them.
want us to approve item A?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Approve it as allowing you to sign the
You gotta
agreement.
sign it.
Yeah, right, what she said. Okay, everybody good? Roll call.
Councilman McIntosh?
Aye.
Councilwoman Martin?
Aye.
Councilman Slakta?
Aye.
Mayor Nelson?
Aye.
Councilman Simmons?
Aye.
Councilman Gibson?
Aye.
Councilman Longcart?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, Janet, and thank you to our much vaunted
Yes. And I just
committee.
have one last comment
You
real
go
fast.
right
if
ahead
I-
real quickly.
Since I've got the floor, I just want to remind everybody, July 4th, ta-da! And you know what? I just want to say a big shout out to staff. And we couldn't do these events without them and without our volunteers who go through the heat and spend the whole day and put these things together. But also, we need to remember our sponsors. The back of this shirt is just covered with sponsors, and we all need to remember those people because they're also keeping these events afloat. So, just a shout out to them of thanks. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item B, Councilman Gibson.
Okay, well, the first thing is to direct staff to work with the FDOT, State Transportation Landscape Architect Jeff Castor, and our District 1 Grant Coordinator to apply for the FDOT Pond Landscape Beautification Grant for $100,000 for the Arroyo Road FDOT Pond for the October 1st, 2014 grant deadline, as well as continue to work with District 1 FDOT Grant Coordinator for other grant opportunities to upgrade the beautification efforts of the pond.
Okay, is this something you've had some discussions with the FDOT before on?
Well, actually, we learned about this from Councilman Gibson's
Right.
recommendation, and of course, we would love to pursue grant monies to help with the Royal Pond. We have the $100,000 that council budgeted for improvement of the pond, and we've been working with FDOT to hammer out an interlocal agreement so that we can be able to get into the pond and start to clean out the cattails and improve the landscaping.
Okay, and of course, if my only concern is that I want to be sure that if there are strings attached, which there's liable to be, so there's the city having to take over responsibility of the lake or something like that, you will come back to us.
Oh no, that's the piece we're already working on.
Okay, good.
That
because
string's already been
that-
attached. and-
Sometimes that's a prize you don't want. Anyway, go ahead.
That is part of the agreement. If we're going to do what we want in that area, they want us to have it. So,
The lake,
yes,
the entire lake.
yes. And the land around it, that's theirs.
And so we would be perpetually responsible for it.
Well, not perpetually. If you chose
Forever?
to no longer maintain it, they can remove the improvements that we do at our cost and then maintain it at their
So
standard.
that would be part of the deal, is that we're able to just kind of give it back to them and they'll just take it?
And the
At
cattails
our-
will grow back.
And any improvements that we put in would be removed at our expense.
The only thing that I would ask, I think we should go ahead and proceed with this, but I would, before we sign the papers, I would ask that you go ahead and give us the fiscal impact of the city for the next 10 years on this, so we can know what we're getting into. Because I'm all for doing this, but you know what? I mean, it can be really expensive. And there's an associated liability with it. So, I'd like
Well,
to know
and the main thing is we just became aware of the grant money, but in January, council already
Right.
voted on doing the $100,000 to the Arroyo Pond.
Sure. All right. Yes.
Thank you. I just wanted to say to Councilman Gibson that I think it's pretty awesome that he's carrying Councilwoman Simon's torch forward with this project and the Spring Creek, because I know it meant an awful lot to her, so thank you for doing that.
Okay. Is there a motion to authorize?
Yes, I make that motion.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Councilwoman Martin?
Aye.
Councilman Slackton?
Aye.
Mayor Nelson?
Aye.
Councilman Simmons?
Aye.
Councilman Gibson?
Aye.
Councilman Longcor?
Aye.
Councilman McIntosh?
Aye.
Okay, Mike, you got one more thing on here.
Yeah, well, the next part is the Spring Creek restoration. Again, council had approved to go forward with a comprehensive study by the Southwest Florida Regional Planning Council, but we haven't done that yet. So I just wanted to direct staff to go ahead with bringing them into the fold and do the comprehensive study.
Yeah, I've got a comment on that. From the very beginning that this was brought up, I mean, number one, I didn't understand the scope. This comes under the heading of what I do for a living too, so I should be able to figure it out. I think that if the residents along there really are supportive of getting the mangroves trimmed and doing the dredging, that's what we should do, and we should go for it. But I know for a fact that those two things that you want to do are typically contrary to what the Regional Planning Council is going to recommend as part of their deal there. So I don't know what there is to be gained by this other study. And so far as especially as far as the residents along Cedar Creek and along Spring Creek, I don't know what there is to be gained for that.
Well, my understanding was that the dredging was going to be the tough part, but having the SWF RPC, specifically Jim Beaver, one of the planners, he was on the Estero Bay management also, and that would help get the dredging permits put through faster.
I really don't believe that to be true, but I mean, I just think that they just seem to be contrary. Matt, I mean, you want to comment about this?
Well, first I'd like to mention I did learn that Mr. Crawford from the RPC is here to speak to the scope.
Okay.
As far as moving forward, the dredging component is a very difficult challenge, and I spoke with Mr. Beaver early on about whether the RPC study would gather the information that we would need to pursue a dredging permit, and the answer was no, and I asked, does it make sense for us to go out ahead and collect that information, because I have had experience with some of the issues that are with this dredging permit. Primarily, it lies within the Estero Bay Submerged Aquatic Preserve, and there's some very stringent regulations that come into play when you apply to dredge in those areas. So time is kind of the essence in terms of collecting how constrained it is, what type of critical habitat is there, so that we can understand what we're up against in looking for a dredging permit. It really, it dovetails into what the RPC study would provide, but other than some recommendative language coming out of the study, I don't know that it accelerates or helps the dredging permit. The issues with the dredging permit are there and will be there, and it's not a guarantee that we'll be successful, but it really doesn't rely on the study.
There have been attempts before to get dredging permits for the Spring Creek area before that have went nowhere.
I'm not aware of any. I am aware of the issue with the aquatic preserve, and I know it's a challenge. It's also small-tooth sawfish habitat, which is an endangered species, which will bring it under a stricter review from the Army Corps of Engineering. So it's a challenging permit to apply for.
Yes, it is. Yeah, and go ahead.
Public comment brought up WCIND. are they a player in this? Are they? Would
They
help?
certainly can be.
Funding-wise.
Once you get a dredging permit, right now we're collecting the information to be able to start the application process for a dredging permit. And I guess I don't want to set any unrealistic expectations. The issues that are here with this dredging permit could drag this on for years, not months, years. So, yes, they could be a player at the point that you realize that you're going to get a permit.
And will the dredging hold up the mangrove trimming?
No, we're working on mangrove trimming currently. We did meet with folks from the DEP that regulate that. We are not the upland property owner. Their guidance was that we could trim mangroves. It seemed to be very directed towards the idea of navigational constrictions, of which there are some. We have reached out to the upland property owners, which are Bay Creek CDD and Bonita Bay Golf Club. We just recently received an easement agreement back from Bonita Bay Golf Club. Bay Creek CDD did approve our suggested easement, and we have them on the agenda for the July 16th council meeting for council to direct us to move forward. With those agreements, we will pull a mangrove trimming permit and move on to effect that work in the navigationally constricted areas.
Right.
Consistent with whatever FDEP permit.
Sure. Okay, good. Any other questions for him?
Well, since we do have David Crawford
Sure,
here, can we
absolutely,
have him?
absolutely. Yeah, come on, Dave.
Good evening, council members. I'll make it quick because I know we're ready to get out. We haven't done the study yet, so I can't say what the results would be on that. Jim is an environmental type of person. I'm on the land use side. I review all your comp plan amendments that come through the Regional Planning Council. This project's especially interested to me and Jim because I've owned 2 houses on Spring Creek and had a dock on Spring Creek, so I know the dredging and trimming requirements. We consider the flows in that creek has been restrained over the years. It's been filling in. It has become more salty because of that, and the mangroves have marched up the creek because of that. And we're looking for comprehensive type of solutions that we can kind of reverse that, because the whole flow starts up in Edison Farms properties, which is south of Wildcat Run and Stony Brook, and it comes out into Estero Bay, the first aquatic preserve in the state of Florida. So we consider that a tremendously important regional resource, Spring Creek itself, and it's under duress, and we want to do something to help that along. And if it dovetails into the DRGR studies and, dredging and trimming, I think what needs to be done in order to bring that creek back to life where it was when I first got down here in '84.
So what you'd be primarily working on is the restoration of flows, freshwater flows in that area?
I think that's the major issue. I mean, we haven't talked to the public or the actors yet, but just my knowledge of it, because I've been on it myself for years, is that I think that it has flow restrictions that have caused salinity problems and has continued over the years, caused by road construction and other construction uplands. And I think that those can be addressed in a number of ways. How to best do it, I don't know yet, and I don't know what the results will be. But I think our intent is to do what's best for the community and what's best for Spring Creek.
Well, if that's what we're buying, well, I'm all for that. But, John, go ahead.
Yeah, and I think Matt made it pretty clear that we tried to be as responsive as we could to some of the resident concerns that were brought to our attention by Councilwoman Simons, and that we are actively pursuing 2 very tangible mini projects, the mangrove trimming and the possible dredging. And again, not to build up expectations, the dredging more than the mangrove trimming could take a considerable amount of time to get that permit process moving in our direction. But we are pursuing those very actively. The other more high level, let's say, or wider scope study that we're talking about here, again, it really has to do with restoring freshwater flows. Your Citizens Water Strategy Task Force has already talked about this in general terms, because again, they are speaking about rehydrating natural flowways, existing historical flowways in different areas of the DRGR. They've talked about restoring some of the flowways potentially under 75 over to the Spring Creek area. They are in the process of still now articulating and then prioritizing a set of recommendations to come to you. And I fully expect that, based on my sense of their conversation so far, that this will be part of that. I'm not saying that precludes your kind of preempting that and going ahead and authorizing this at this point, but you might want to wait and see how the task force views this particular study as opposed to some of the other ones in terms of their prioritization. I'd be very surprised if this didn't show up on that list somewhere, but I can't tell you at this point where on the priority, on the hierarchy it might show up.
Makes sense. Mike, what do you think about that? And let them take a look at it and be sure it's consistent with what their vision is. I mean, I would hate to do something. I know it's not contrary, but I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think it would be a benefit to them, but also a benefit to the health of Spring Creek to have the study done.
Okay. Well, council, what's your pleasure? Good, Steve. Or
Linda?
Steve.
And, this probably, do you have any thoughts? I mean, I know you've been active with this. I obviously respect your opinion. I know you've been, yes. Do you have?
Yeah, I definitely appreciate you. A microphone.
Yeah.
Thanks. Well, thanks.
That's good. That's
Thank
okay.
you.
That's all right.
Yes, as I said earlier, I very much appreciate the efforts the city has made so far in terms of pursuing the bathymetric study, which is necessary before any dredging is planned. And Matt has taken, leadership role in terms of the trimming, meeting with the DEP. So again, I really appreciate all the efforts, but I do think that the overall health of Spring Creek needs to be closely examined. And I agree it's closely tied with what the Water Strategy Task Force is doing. So I would really encourage you to go ahead and approve it.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Council, what's your pleasure?
Make a motion to proceed to draw up the contract with Southwest Florida Regional Planning Council.
We have a motion to proceed.
Second.
And a second. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilman Slakta.
Aye.
Mayor Nelson.
Aye.
Councilman Simmons.
Aye.
Councilman Gibson.
Aye.
Councilman Longcart.
Aye.
Councilman McIntosh.
Aye.
Councilwoman Martin.
Aye.
Okay. Mike, do you have anything else?
It's running late, so no. I hope to see everybody at 4th
Attaboy.
of July. So
Nicely done, sir. Bill, what do you got for us?
I'm ready to go to bed.
There you go. I think I already did. Steve, Councilman McIntosh.
Just real quickly, we have a new principal to Estero High School. A week from today, July 9th, 9 o'clock, we're going to hold a little welcome here in City Hall. I hope you can come meet him, say hello, and welcome him.
Thank you, brother.
Email coming.
Councilman, what do you got?
Yes, I just want to let you know that the Veterans Advisory Committee has an anonymous donor that wants to support the Wounded Warriors softball team in January of 2015. Since there's got to be a down payment that is made, I wanted to let the council know that next Thursday we'll have a Veterans Advisory Committee meeting, and we're going to then apply for the special events permit, and we'll have more. And the last thing I just want to say is that Monday I was really thrilled. Out of 300 veterans that showed up for Governor Scott's visit at the National Guard Armory, 2 of our local Bonita Spring veterans were singled out by the governor, and quote the governor, "You have a great city and you are doing great things," and that's a wonderful thing for me to hear from a governor. And by the way, I want you to know that that woman's probably frozen in there. Alana, thank you for all you do, and I know you want to go home, but thanks so much.
Okay, Pete, what you got for us?
No, I'm good. Happy 4th of July to everybody, and look forward to celebrating our birthday here.
Good deal. Let's see, motion to approve minutes. A motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mayor Nelson.
Aye.
Councilman Simmons.
Aye.
Councilman Gibson.
Aye.
Councilman Longcart.
Aye.
Councilman McIntosh.
Aye.
Councilwoman Martin.
Aye.
Councilman Slakta.
Aye.
And any members of the public wish to come to the microphone at this time, please do so.
Kathy McGrath, I want to say good night, but I just want to clarify something about WCIND. My understanding, I've been on the Waterways Advisory Board now for 18 years. I do not believe that anyone goes directly to WCIND. What we do is people put in for grants, just like you do for the police protection, and the county puts in the money for dredging. So, I mean, no one goes directly to WCIND. It has to go, I believe, through Natural Resources Management, and they put in, because there's always dredging projects when we prioritize. So I believe I'm correct. I stand corrected. You probably know that better than I do, Ben. I have never known anyone to go directly to WCIND, and I know someone in the audience earlier mentioned something about it. So let's all say goodnight and go home and get some rest.
Good idea. Good idea.
Thanks.
Anyone else
Thanks.
anyone else this time? Please come forward. Seeing none. Council?